shoots up into this ether. Invest in mentorship, a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of stress relieving. Yeah. And that's a small group of families like Rockefellers, Rothschilds, whatever it may want. Yeah.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Adonis Talk, where we empower your journey to success and personal growth. I'm your host, Jared, and today we have Christian Van Camp, aka CVC Wellness, a maestro in men's lifestyle coaching with a passion for reconnecting us to nature's roots. We're about to unpack Christian's ancestral hacks for a better life, from daily routines to diet, supplementation, and his intriguing perspectives on conspiracy theories, psychedelics, weeds, EMFs, and beyond. Stick around till the end of this episode, where I'll be offering a complimentary reference document packed with all the key advice and valuable insights shared during our conversation. Please welcome Christian Van Camp.
Absolutely.
Well, Christian Van Camp, it's an honor to have you on. Welcome to the show. I'm just going to go right off the bat. What's your background, man? And how was your childhood like?
Yeah, it's multifaceted, of course. There's so many layers of human life and consciousness. But for me in particular, in this 3D realm, I like to say that, what led me into what I'm passionate about now with holistic health, natural wellness, was really a lot of things stemming from my family's health and a lot of things that weren't fulfilled through the modern healthcare system. For example, my little sister Nina, she ended up having a slowly degrading heart failure. She was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome, which is basically like a 2-chambered heart, 3-chambered heart versus like the full capacity 4 chambers we have. So this congenital heart issue led her into having so many procedures throughout the years when she was like born and young. And that's where the beautiful gold of modern medicine came in, is like she wouldn't be here if it weren't for these, procedures constantly on her heart all throughout her youth. And then eventually in December of 2013, she was administered into the hospital with pneumonia and a lot of these things happening to her immune system. And we were thinking it's just going to be like a temporary in and out of the hospital, but 3 months, 4 months pass, and she is basically on the verge of death. And so at this point in time, we're just praying to God, like everything works well. And, she was told if she doesn't get a new heart transplant, then she's not going to survive. And by the grace of God, within like a week or two of that notification, she ended up getting a new heart. And so, that's the beauty of modern medicine, is being able to have these, acute issues, these health issues fulfilled through the amazing technological innovations we have. And so I absolutely love that and see the divine light in that. But then there was this side of her being fed like foods from highly processed foods in the hospital, just like canned green beans, just like nutrient void foods. And I'm like 15, 16 at the time, just like, what is going on? This is interesting. Like, this is not something that's in line with how she should recover nutritionally, right? And so that opened up a different gateway of like, how can I help my sister heal, recover from this incredible just feat overall with health. And so that guided me down a path of learning and studying more about nutrition, kinesiology, exercise science. I ended up going to university for both of those degrees, which was, amazing in the way that it taught me just how to study some of the sciences like anatomy and physiology, biochemistry, these hardcore physics sciences, which I wouldn't necessarily have the capacity to do so without a guiding force or extrinsic motivator like university, which was great. And so that taught me the ins and outs of that. But the university taught me things that were not in line with my value system. Going back to what I was saying about, the healthcare system today, is it doesn't have a lot of these fundamentals around natural wellness. A lot of the stuff is outdated or not even, efficacious when it comes to like the food pyramid, as an example, or, certain philosophies around pasteurized milk instead of raw milk, just like little things that were just like, this is wrong. We shouldn't be teaching this as like, this is the way. It's black and white with nutrition. There's a lot of gray areas. So, this expanded me into basically just realizing I don't want to work for anyone. I don't really want to have a 9-to-5 job and working at a position that is not fulfilling to me in accordance to my values, and slowly degrading my heart, as a lot of us feel today. And so I just started posting things online. I came to Instagram and different social media outlets, and that led into people gaining traction, appreciating that. Then it led into me getting some first coaching clients one-on-one. And that expanded into this arsenal I have today of content creation, primarily working with coaching clients one-on-one and in group standpoints, and also a lot of community networking and partnerships with different health optimization companies. So it's a long-winded storyline, but it's definitely an inspiration around the negatives and the hardships that led into a lot of these positives today.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's an incredible story. And thinking back to your whole life path until now, what would you have done differently, or what did you wish you knew back then before stepping into this whole new world, because it's
Mm.
just so large, so big?
Yeah, yeah, man. I think one of the best things that I ended up doing later on catching momentum on is realizing that I can't do this shit alone. I think a lot of us men get in that headspace too of like, we can just plow through it ourselves, we can get all this stuff done, whether it's through business or learning the ins and outs of business or entrepreneurship, or maybe it's learning the ins and outs of health in itself. And it's the nutrition, studying that online, getting all this conflicting information, trying to study it ourselves to save money was the core of it all, right? I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us are trying to save money, but I think the thing that really was a turning point for me and the big light bulb in my head was invest in mentorship, invest in coaches, invest in people that have already done this, that are doing it online, that you can feel a deep spiritual connection with through the screen. And you're like, just reach out to them. That's buy their course, it's buy their program, it's buy their coaching, or even a therapist if you're feeling down. Like hire someone that is at that level that you can see is really radiating at that level that you want to be at, and
Mm-hmm.
invest in their knowledge, their service, right? That's one of the best things I can recommend, because when I started doing that with business, when I started doing that with nutrition, it was exponential growth. It just went like whoop, right up. Versus trying to do it myself, it was like a baby step. Like
Yeah,
it's not worth it. So I think
that
saving
makes
time and
sense.
energy by investing in mentors is like number one.
That makes sense. And who were your biggest inspirations then, and who were your mentors, if that's not
Mm.
too personal?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I love sharing this. Some of my favorite mentors of all time today is Paul Chek, the great Paul Chek. If you're familiar with
Okay.
him, he's basically, I like to say, a guru in the wellness space. He's been in this sphere for over 40 years, 50 years.
Oh, okay.
He's 63 right now. He has the Chek Institute, CHEK, incredible holistic practitioner. He's super, super well versed. His podcast is Living 4D.
Mm-hmm.
4D, like fourth dimension, with Paul Chek. That's an incredible podcast, and he's an absolute guru. I also would shout out certified health nut Troy Casey. He's been someone in the beginning stages online virtual mentorship that has helped me a lot in many areas. Raw of Earth is also another one. Shout out to you, Raw. He goes by Raw of Earth on Instagram and different outlets. He's an incredible dude living in Cali, and he's just well-centered guy. I also would say more intimate connections is Logan Sneed for business.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just a younger guy who's really figured out and cracked the code when it comes to how to be an awesome online coach. And he helped me immensely figure out how to optimize my first 10K a month, right? And doing
Mm-hmm.
so with a heart-centered approach, not just like I'm trying to make money quick. He was one of the one guys that stood out that wasn't just trying to make money quick. So Logan Sneed's great, but yeah, there's a multitude of guys that come to mind, and even some of them are just short-lived, like they're a month or two or three, just brief little
But they're vital
converse.
to your path, right? They're
Yeah,
vital to your
exactly.
journey.
Yeah, and they're not like on the top of my head necessarily, but they're in my heart for sure. That
Mm.
they've been a guiding post for me to reach where I am today, and so much respect for those people that you encounter in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some people are just meant to be in your life for a season, and they just lift
Yes.
you up immensely,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll always be our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. What would you consider? Now, it can be a tricky question. What would you consider your biggest failure in this space, where you just fell, and like, what did you learn from it?
Mm. I think some of the failure points, it wasn't necessarily anything that was like, oh wow, this stands out as like the biggest failure of all time, because I haven't had anything necessarily like that, nor do I think I ever will, nor do I feel I ever will. But I look at every failure as success today, which is obviously cliche to say, but it's true. If you
No, it's
really
true.
take
Yeah,
it,
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's true.
if you take a
Yeah.
big deep dive into it in the moment, it's like a really shitty hardship, and you're like, this sucks. I'm losing a lot of money, or my health is declining. Sure, but in the long game, after some introspection and self-reflection, I've come to realize that all of them are just like so essential for the growth. Now, I haven't had anything significant, but I would say a lot of failures came to, really online content creation and spending a year, 6 months plus, just making content that never got any sort of momentum. But I don't necessarily consider that a failure. I consider that a part of the teaching lessons to figure out what I really wanted to portray myself as online. So with that being said, I mean, it's one of those things that, yeah, I failed a lot. I mean, I would post things that would just get 0 views technically. And it's not about the views, but it's about like, what is the message I'm portraying here? It's not gaining
Mm-hmm.
momentum. It's not being reciprocated. So after micro failures over time, I've come to find out and like crack a certain code algorithm on like how I want to speak and how I want to be heard and how I want to impact others through that throat chakra, I guess you can say. So yeah, just a multitude of failures for a year plus making content, like just
Yeah.
micro failures. You know, we were like, damn, I thought this content was good, and then it turned out to be shit, and it just kept going on like that. So
Yeah. It's sad because some people are just so afraid of failure that they just end up not doing anything. And I think that's even worse than failure because you just
mm,
end up not doing anything and you just it's like lower than failure. Failure is just great way to learn, great way to move forward. And
mm-hmm,
failure's gonna happen. We're all human, right? You're gonna fall
exactly.
at some point. You just have to learn to get back up and hit it harder next time.
Yeah, analysis paralysis is a real problem, man. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
overthinking it instead of just like, okay, just do it. You know, you have the idea down, put it to paper, put it to pen and paper, and then enact
Hmm.
on it, right?
Yeah.
That's just in my personality, though. So I'm very thankful to have this manifesting generation energy where I can like come up with an idea, and if I really value it,
Hmm.
within 6 months' time of like launching something, it'll come into fruition. So some of
Okay.
us, we overthink it. We're more projectors. We're kind of creating
Hmm.
the ideas.
Yeah, I think we just all have our different ways and paths, and we just have to adapt to our situations, I
Mm,
guess.
mm-hmm. Absolutely, man.
um, so you said you bought courses and you followed mentors. Are there any other resources like books or I don't know websites or university classes? I don't know anything that actually helped you
Mm.
in this life path.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, another guy that became an indirect mentor and someone I looked up to a lot back in the day, he's definitely shifted his way. He portrays himself online in different ways, but still has valuable information on all of his blogs. BenGreenfieldLife.com.
Mhm.
Ben Greenfield is just an absolute guru in the space of, I like to say bio-harmonizing, but he calls it biohacking, you know, the biohacking sphere.
Yeah.
And I think biohacking is great, but also just the word in general, hack. I've come to shift my viewpoint on that over the years of just like, we're not hacking our way out of nature. We're actually harmonizing with what nature already provides, right? But he's really, really brilliant when it comes to simplifying some of the intense sciences relating to physiology, health, longevity, right? And so being able to really simplify that and making it kind of a third grade level. Ben Greenfield has incredible work online with that, a ton of resources. You know, I brought up Paul Chek as well. Just his podcast is a great place to start. You know, my page also has a lot of that stuff from the years of just picking up pieces from all these different podcasts and sources. And, you know, no idea is truly original, I like to say. So it's like, it's just a manifestation of who you are and your unique human character. We all kind of like come up with these ideas from something we've read, like Marcus
Hmm.
Aurelius from 2000 years ago on the Meditations book or whatever it may be. We all come up with these ideas and fortify them in our own ways. So all of my ideas aren't necessarily original. I've come to that conclusion. You know, it feels that way, but because it's an expression of my personality, but it's
Yeah.
really just a morphed version of what other things I've learned
Yeah.
about. So yeah, I mean, I'd say there's a multitude of things on my website. Actually, I have a list of books that I really love. I put it on my page and cvcwellness.com/must reads.
I'll
That
put that down
has,
below.
yeah, that's a good one, man. It has like a lot of books that I've really felt a different,
Hmm.
just a catapult and change in my life. So I put all those resources on there from guys like I just mentioned right here. And
Hmm.
Aubrey Marcus has great stuff too. Love his work. So yeah, there's a couple right there.
Okay, so you're a big reader, right?
You know, lately I've taken a step back because I've been in more of this creation, less consumption. It's
Yeah.
interesting. So over the past,
Okay.
I go through phases of it, right? So like lately, I just create because I'm coming up with some new business things and just connections and networking. So yeah, over the past 5, 6 months, I've been in a creation mode. It's very interesting. I go through phases like this, kind of like seasons of winter is more like come
Hmm.
inward, maybe just like calm down, you know,
Just
eat
recharge.
warming foods, recharge, yeah, and then summertime's go out, be active, eat less food in a way because you're just fortified by the sun too. So
Hmm.
I go through seasonal changes with exercise, with studying, researching, knowledge, and then creation, and then also even seasons which just like, you know, nutrition, you know, seasonal eating with nutrition. So there's many facets with it, but yeah, right now I'm in a phase where I'm not reading a whole lot. You know, I'll pick up my book occasionally. There's a variety of different books I go back to. A lot of them are just, you know, philosophy based books. You know,
Hmm.
things similar to Marcus Aurelius. I've studied so much nutrition and fitness stuff over so many years. You know, it's like 8 years of studying the stuff in and out that I'm still, it's all crystallized in my head now, but I'm not really as passionate to research that as much right now. I'm in a phase of just like spiritual and philosophy kind of
And
readings.
applying
So,
what you learned.
exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Applying it. Yeah. That's kind of the in and out like cycle of
Yeah.
like research, 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 and then create
Yeah.
research. Yeah. It's
That
kind of
makes
cool.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah. And did that occur naturally, or did you like do it intentionally? Like you felt like, okay, I'm just going to move towards more of creating than consuming, or did that just occur naturally?
Supernatural, man.
Yeah.
Supernatural. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even when I had an idea come in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm getting bored because I get bored easily with my personality. That like stimulating me through like, okay, I'm going to create this project. I'm going to just put it all down. Because, dude, I think all of us, in all honesty, we're in such a consuming like time in our lives. Like, what is it like the stat we've heard, like where it's like the amount of information we hear today or just absorb today, the information is like 1,000 times greater than our grandparents in 1910 or something
Yeah.
wild.
It's
Like
something like that.
some
Yeah.
crazy
It's
statistic.
crazy.
Yeah,
There's just
yeah,
so
it's like
much. There's
yeah, like
so much.
one day of learning something online when we're scrolling and seeing information is like the equivalent to our parents or grandparents learning stuff in a matter of like 6 months. Like it's the most
Yeah.
wild thing.
No, it's mad. Yeah. Our brain is just getting completely overloaded by of information.
Yeah. And so what
It's
does that mean? It just means like we're just my favorite quote of all time is to know and not do is to never truly know. To know and
wow.
not do is to never. It's so simple,
It's
and
very
it's kind
simple.
of
It's
it's just kind
powerful.
of dumb in a way, but it's also not dumb. It makes complete sense. It's like, what's the point of knowing if we won't even put it into action or make a
Hmm.
difference in other people's lives, the greater good ourselves? There's no
I love
point.
that.
There really is no point. There's a void in our hearts, and we're in a culture today where everyone's just like know the next fad, know the next Andrew Huberman studied podcast from the very beginning to the end, a 3 hour podcast, like memorize all of that. And all these people I work with too, even clients I see this, is they know this information, but they aren't practicing it. So what's the
Hmm.
point of it, right? So
Yeah.
then they hire me as a coach to support them on like putting it to action and the accountability and support to be able to make it happen, right? It's such an interesting phenomenon. And I've dealt with this myself in many phases too, where I'm just consuming. And then I'm just like, shit, I know so much about this nutrition. I'm still eating these processed foods. It's like an
Yeah.
interesting thing to be in.
It's almost an addiction because I'm more in the self improvement and entrepreneurship side of things, and it is a big recurring problem is that people just tend to consume without acting. So yeah, it is a major problem.
The next
Uh,
Alex Hormozy video pops up and you're just studying it like crazy.
exactly,
And then
like
all of a sudden you're
okay,
like, what do I,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and then you're just like, what did I learn? And then you're just not
yeah,
acting, and then you wake up and it's 2 years later and you haven't done
yeah.
anything.
You're like, shit.
It's scary to think of, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back to your content. So I've been following you now since I think September, and honestly, I love your stuff, man. Both on Instagram and YouTube. I've noticed that you're talking more and more about EMFs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you mind explaining what EMFs are to those listening, and then explaining your concern and how to
Absolutely.
mitigate the risks of EMF? Because as you can see, I plugged in my headset.
Yeah, you got it
I
right.
bought that back in I think August. I was like,
Nice.
oh, I got my wireless headset, and then I've been seeing
Yeah.
all these studies. You talking about it, and these other YouTubers, and I'm like, oh my god, it's microwaving my brain.
Dude, it is so wild, because it's invisible. We don't really see these
Yeah,
things. We don't see these things. We don't
yeah,
necessarily feel them too. And that's the interesting part is like it's behind the scenes. It's behind, a common thing to consider is like if you're starting a new habit, putting it in your funnel of vision, putting it in your optic flow of vision will allow you to have that as a reminder to, you know, do the project, do the, like if your journal's out, you're going to more likely do the journal instead of packing it away behind the shelf, right? Or if your book is out and you see it every day, you're more likely to pick up the book. If your
yeah.
instrument's out that you want to play, like your guitar, you're more likely to pick up the guitar and do it.
I,
Now,
I,
that's a constant.
yeah.
What was that?
No, I feel like reading that somewhere too. I think it was Atomic Habits, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Great,
it's
great
powerful.
stuff.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's
man.
like same for my water bottle. I just leave it on my desk, and then I just drink more.
And then you just randomly look at it and you're like, okay, I'm going to drink
Oh
this,
yeah,
right? Supplements are the same. Like I always tell my clients, if you want to start a new habit and this is something that you've never really messed with before, keep it out in your visual cortex and you're going to remind yourself. But the
absolutely.
key here too with that is make sure it's moving around. So our body conditions to the environment. So if we see something that's in the same exact place all the time, we end up like just getting in the vision of like almost blinders, like, oh, it's not a
Hmm.
threat, therefore I'm not going to pick it up and act with it, right?
That's
So
interesting.
that's something too, is like the sticky note fallacy, where basically we'll set sticky notes, write it once, keep it there, and we're more likely in the next day, 2, 3, 4 days, or even week, just to completely forget about. We won't even read it, right? So a lot of people keep sticky notes on their laptop and they never rewrite it or put it in a new spot. Therefore,
Hmm.
it's just like you don't really remember it. So it's an interesting little
Yeah,
psychological intervention,
yeah, I
you know.
didn't think
So
of that. Yeah, true.
yeah,
I'll
so like all the stuff behind you right now, you may have a vision board or something. Like,
yeah, I've got some
instead of
stuff
just
up.
keeping the vision board in the same place all the time, you can actually unpin it and put it somewhere new. Like maybe it's in your bathroom, or maybe it's on the floor, and you just pick it up and it will actually program deeper into
Yeah,
your. It's
I just put
cool.
that in the communal kitchen. Just leave it there
There we go. Yeah, just
for
move it
everybody to
around.
share. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or make a new one every month or whatever. You know, so that allows your brain to constantly engage with this, this
And
outside environment.
do do you think it's at a certain point it's you've done it so many times around your house that it just fully adapted and then nothing else works, or do you think it's just a cycle of your brain will always not adapt to when you're moving it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So according to just like general understanding of how human psychology works, as long as you are rewriting it, recreating it physically,
Mm-hmm.
and you're moving it around in a new environmental spot, then it will trigger a sense of neurogenesis or growth to that area.
Okay,
So as long as you're shifting the environment and you're rewriting or recreating it, that will actually help you stimulate a sense of like memory for it. Now, if
amazing.
you're not doing that, it's in the same place, that's where the issues arise. But the reason I bring that up is regarding EMFs, is like these are invisible things. We become conditioned to not think about it. This is something that's new within the past 20, 30 years, maybe. Like in 1990, we started having some of these laptops and stuff, not even laptops, but computers coming out and stuff. This is so novel and new. And the big problem nowadays is we have 5G, which is a extremely high level of radiation being emitted from these devices to connect with
Mm-hmm.
these satellites that are hundreds of thousands and thousands of miles away. And so what this is doing is it's non-native. So non-native is basically it's not in harmony native to nature. And so what that does is it obviously disrupts our cellular communication, our cellular health. It creates an inflammatory cascade because it's wavelengths that are agitating. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like if you were, let's say, what is some of your favorite music? What do you enjoy listening to?
At the moment, reggae.
Okay, cool. So you love reggae, right? You
Yeah.
feel harmonized when you listen to it. It makes you feel good. Put on some type of reggae music. It's like, okay, this is making me happy. You kind of get a smile on your face. Maybe you're walking down the street, you're studying. Now, let's say you played on what is music that you're like, I don't like the flavor of this. It kind of makes me annoyed.
Drill, like UK,
Okay.
like rap drill. At the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah. So
it's
that's
just
just
too
say,
much. Yeah.
yeah, some intense, like maybe just some intense EDM music, or maybe some type of like just agitating frequencies, almost like TV static. Imagine if you're, well, actually, that's even more harmonizing because that's kind of like a white noise. But just imagine like a sound that's just like irritating, like a chalkboard sound. That's what these EMFs are doing to our body. We hear it and it's like, oh, I don't like that. That's what our cells are, that's how we're reacting to it. Versus like EMFs, which are natural, electromagnetic frequencies, which are natural, they're native, that would be like grounding barefoot on earth, right? Or getting sunlight, or jumping into the ocean with all these electrons and healthy, vital minerals and electrifying compounds. Those are healthy electromagnetic frequencies. Those are coming from earth, they're native, right? So that allows us to harmonize with ourselves. So our cells are like, oh, I get this. This is reggae music to me. Nice. But the opposite would be like this laptop radiating on my balls if I like set it on top, right? That is not going to be good. And so there's many, speaking of which, there's many detrimental health effects relating to it, extending from fertility issues all the way to brain issues, or having some things when it comes to, like you mentioned, the headphones, AirPods, wearing these AirPods, they're literally frequencies that are pulsating in the skull. And so unlike some over ear headphones, a lot of times they only have one receiver. And so it's just like the one receiver, and then there's a wire that connects overhead, and then it connects to the other earphone. Those ones you're wearing most likely have that. They don't have the double receivers penetrating on both sides. So that can be a little bit better of a choice, is like the Bose Quiet Comfort or something. It's like they have one receiver into the device with the Bluetooth. So it's not necessarily like wow, 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 wow through the
Okay, so
skull.
it's not going through the skull and through the brain. Okay.
Yeah. And so most of them in general are just still going to be really high gigahertz and whatnot of, Bluetooth. And so Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, We have the laptops, we have the phones in the pockets. These are things, most kids are holding phones 24/7 a day, basically. They sleep with it, they put it on their side of their bed. These are huge issues. We don't know what these things are going to be doing long term. We're starting to get data on it more and more. I'd rather not take the risk. Some people say, oh, you're assuming this isn't really an issue. I'm like, okay, so be it then. Keep putting your phone in your pocket. Why not just take the extra precautionary by putting
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
phone on
It doesn't cost much.
speakerphone? It doesn't really, it's not like I'm wearing the wired right now. Yeah, these are Apple as well. So there is a little
Yeah.
bit of EMFs going up the wire. You can even
Okay.
get ones that have like the tunnel in here where it's basically a little speaker that ends right here. And then there
Okay.
is no wire and it's just a funnel that takes in. It's a
It
hollow
just
funnel.
it brings
Sound waves too.
the sound
The
waves. Yeah.
auditory is not a good experience necessarily because it's not as crystal clear, but it is a nice way to go to do something like that. And so, those are examples right there. Keep the phone in the pocket, put it in airplane mode. Do not sleep with the phone plugged in at night beside your nightstand. When you plug it in, it's basically filling up the battery and it empowers the amount of electromagnetic field going around it. So then you're
Okay.
actually just
Wow.
zapping yourself in
Okay.
your sleep.
I thought it was more of a related danger to the battery actually just blowing up next to your face.
That too, I'm sure. That
That
too,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
The likelihood with our technology today is we have like the amount of energy coming in to where it can diffuse it, and like we have like Apple is really incredible technology, right? These Androids really incredible technology, so that's not as much of an issue as much as the amount of EMS being radiated from that. Like it's crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And does it disrupt the biodiversity too? Like when you talk about 5G and stuff, does it also impact nature?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine just
I guess.
thinking about these big 5G towers.
Mm-hmm.
We like make it seem like they're just like a palm tree or a tree.
That
And
is
we put
funny.
all this
Yeah.
funny as it's blended into the
Yeah.
tree life. They purposely do that so people don't, feel like this is some Star
As
Wars.
threatened. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. It's just like some
It's like, oh.
imperial Star Wars. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
scary stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
it for sure does. I mean, just think about um, birds, forming nests on it. They don't even know there's some radiation zapping those birds. I mean, it's already been shown this causes an increase in cellular mitosis, which is your cancer cells. So yeah. So imagine what that's doing to the biology out here when it comes to all the animals and all the plants and stuff around it. It's definitely not natural. So
I saw this article. I can't remember when. I guess it was like a year ago. It was these farmers like suing these like 5G towers because right next to their cattle. And the farmers were claiming that it would negatively impact the cows and perhaps the hens and the eggs. And back then, I think it was like maybe 2 years ago, we were like, oh no, 5G is fine, it's safe.
right,
And then when you look at the study today, you're like, damn, okay,
that's actually
they were lying.
legit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's mad. How do you mitigate these risks then? Do you just stop all these devices? Because even like my MacBook here is emitting, I guess, EMFs. Do
Mm-hmm.
you have any ways to mitigate those risks or not?
Yeah, yeah. I usually just say basically, I bought this awesome flamethrower online. I put a pile of my electronic devices and just zapped them all. No, I actually just recommend harmonizing with tech. I mean, it's inevitable. Technology is incredible. People always tell me too. It's so funny. They're like, I make these EMF posts and stuff, and they'll be like, "Well, dude, you recorded this on a phone," and I'm like, "That is the dumbest argument of all time." Because I'm not saying throw away these phones. What I'm saying is like use these devices in a healthy manner. Yeah, just be conscious of it. So super simple. And so yeah, I mean that's all it is. It's like airplane mode can help disconnect some of the 5G radiation. So when you put that on your pocket, that can dissipate a little bit of that. You can ground barefoot to mitigate the inflammation. Keep the phones just away from you. Do your best to turn off the Wi-Fi as much as possible. I actually got one of these timer outlet things. So you plug it into the outlet and the electrical device, and then you turn it on to where it automatically ticks around to where when it's from like 9 p.m. to like 8 a.m. or whatever, it's just completely off for me. So I just like it disconnects the energy going into the Wi-Fi modem
That makes
router.
sense. Okay, yeah. I'll try to hack into the university electrical room and and change that.
There you go. That's a good way to go too. Yeah, I mean these are all simple things. Like don't right now don't put the Wi-Fi over your junk. Like there's I have a really cool. I think it's called Safe Sleeve. There's a brand or something like out there I'm not affiliated with, but it has like it's basically just a thick, I don't know what kind of material, some type of metal is within it, and you can put it like underneath your laptop. It's the diameter. It's like 14 inches by like whatever it is. But it basically, you can put that under your laptop to, prevent any sort of passages of EMS through it. So that's really helpful if you want to work on, like, you have a couple pillows on your chest. Sometimes I like to do it, or your lap, and then you can stack your laptop on top with that on there, so it doesn't penetrate on your penis and on your balls. Like, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, these are simple little steps. And then also there's EMF mitigation tech that's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool science out there with certain things that harmonize these frequencies and turn them into more biologically in tune. So let's say they're kind of like vibrating like at a very intense frequency and it's hitting your body. These little devices will basically orchestrate a wave that is almost similar to noise canceling headphones. You ever use
Okay.
noise canceling headphones?
Yeah,
Those
these
ones,
are
right?
noise
Yeah.
cancelling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So they're epic, right? So like when I'm on planes, the
Do they
noise
do like
canceling.
the reverse of the wave to
Yeah,
cancel it out?
exactly. So
Yeah.
basically, it's just like you can imagine a sound is whang whang whang, like it's like kind of just like whoa, and it like has that vibrating sound that cuts off external sound. It kind of infiltrates it to make it a simple harmonizing sound. And so that's kind of what it's doing when it comes to these little devices that have been backed by a lot of different third-party peer-reviewed sciences and stuff, not just some random
Okay.
gimmick stuff, but even
Yeah.
copper coil-based things. And there's
Okay.
a lot of cool pyramid,
Yeah.
like shungite. It's really cool.
I've seen some of those. I thought they were full of shit.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't do
thought
much
that way
research on
too.
it.
But
Yeah. I thought like how's that gonna yeah.
you can grab an EMF meter and you can actually test these out for yourself. It's really cool. And you can see some of these pyramid design crystals like intertwined with copper coils inside of it, orchestrated perfectly with quartz and like amethyst and different ones in there. And they're built in a way that actually is in tune with like harmonizing these frequencies to where it actually completely mitigates and blocks them. So it's not necessarily favorable if you want a good good connection. But what it is good for is if you're sleeping, you can put it by your bedside, or sometime you're not really using a ton of these devices, and it will help mitigate a lot of the inflammation coming from it, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just have to be conscious of it and learn to live with it safely.
Yes, exactly. There's no point in trying to fight it. I mean, it's too much of an explosion right now. Elon's coming out with some weird shit anyway, so we're gonna be like cyborgs before we already are cyborgs. I mean,
Yeah, with
look
this
at
what is it? Neuralink
yeah,
chip in the
Neuralink.
brain. That's mad. What's your take on that when it comes to because you're talking about biohacking. Now
Yeah,
this is like a level of biohacking.
right.
Like it's almost yeah. It's just out of this world. What do you think of that?
I think there's going to be some really helpful applications to it, but then we look at the explosion of it becoming a part of the general public, and that's where an issue arises, right? Let's say you're born with a health issue, you have some type of brain disorder, whatever it may be, you can't move your right leg. I don't know why, your nerves are not fucking connected to it, right? And your life is fucking horrible from it, right? And you're just like really struggling with it. Neuralink's out here and it's been tested quite a bit, and you're like, fucking, I'm going to do this Neuralink thing, and maybe you build some synapses connection to your leg and you can walk again. I don't know. Now, there could be for some severe cases, like that would make sense. Neuralink's designed for that, right? But I think the problem is we're making this to where this is going to be accessible to everyone. And then there's going to be like Joe Schmo who's just like, oh, I want to get this chip in my head. And then all of a sudden he's connected to this network relating to X or Twitter where they have all this data. They know exactly what all these people are doing, and then they connect it to these Starlink phones, and then they connect it to going to Mars with some of these spaceships, and then they connect it to the Tesla motors, and they know exactly where you're driving to. So
Yeah.
everything is synced up on this one encompassing network, and that's what Elon's doing. He's got the cars, he's got the Tesla,
He's got
he's
the
got
social media.
Starlink, he's got the social media with all the information connecting people's consciousness. You got the Starlink,
SpaceX.
the SpaceX, right? All these things are going to more than what we're talking about right now with Neuralink. All these
Yeah.
things are going to morph together and create this like
Super
almost
network.
terrifying like control center. And I think
Yeah.
there's something related to Elon Musk that people aren't like. People are like, oh, Elon, he's so fucking cool and relatable and all this stuff. And I'm like, I
Do you
don't
think
know,
there's
man.
a dark side to
Of
Elon
course
Musk?
there is, man. Of course there is. Like, there's no doubt. And
It's
if
so
you
much
argue
power,
that,
yeah. It'd
so much
be
power. Yeah, once you get to
stupid
that
to
level of
argue that,
status
yeah.
and everything, yeah. Now, of course, there's guys that are above Elon that are like the BlackRock,
Yeah,
Vanguard, if you're
Vanguards,
familiar with
yeah.
that. Yeah, and like all of that. They're Elon is basically the puppet in some degree. He's living his life, he enjoys it, he's making new things, whatever. But he's being fed even more power to some of these guys, even above him. And that's a small group of families like Rockefellers,
Rothschild,
Rothschilds,
yeah.
whatever it may want to be. Yeah, and they're controlling him as a puppet in the public eye. These people are never seen. never ever seen, right? They're the ones going to Antarctica or some fucking Epstein's Island type shit,
Yeah,
and they're doing some stuff that we have no idea what to comprehend. Because who knows what's in Antarctica? No one knows. Oh, they're polar
no one
bears.
knows.
It's just fucking
It's
ice.
illegal to go. That's all we know.
It's illegal to go, right? I mean, imagine flying down there. Like guys that there's a story of the guy that flew down there, came back, and he said he saw like other life source energy. It was like a beautiful planet. It was like beautiful energy down there, unlimited resources basically.
Mm.
And he came
Because
back
yeah,
and he was killed.
the continent is wow. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
he disappeared shortly after telling everyone this. Like, it was,
Damn, yeah. Because the continent is just so big. And I think that most of the images, if you go on Google Maps, if you zoom onto Antarctica, it's not even pictures anymore. I think it's just AI generated area because
yeah,
it's just so vast. They're not going to just take a picture of snow
yeah,
for I don't know how many kilometers.
yeah. And then
Um,
there's also
yeah,
pyramids they've discovered in Antarctica.
I've heard that pyramid theory in Antarctica too.
Think about
Yeah,
that. On every continent around the
there's a
world,
pyramid.
there's been a pyramid.
Yeah,
And they
not far
apparently
from
have
you
never
too.
connected. It was all like a consciousness, like Egypt. You have places in South America, the Aztec Empire. You have even locations up north in the North America with where the Indians were, and some of these everywhere. Australia has them, and that's a separate little thing. Hawaii had them. Like these are all little interconnecting teleportation type energies that sink up into the ether and the clouds. This is stuff that sounds so woo woo and crazy to people, but
Yeah,
it's like it's pretty obvious to me now. I'm not
yeah.
obsessive about this stuff anymore. My bandwidth is kind of limited on how much I want
Mm.
to look into now, but it is
Yeah,
interesting.
because you can't do much about it anyway, so it'd be pointless to lose too much energy to it. But it is interesting to know about this stuff and be conscious of what's going on
Amount of power
to a
out
certain degree. Yeah,
there.
because even what we're talking about, I don't think we even at the top of the iceberg. There's just so much we don't know. We can't even dream of.
Yeah. Right.
It's mad.
Yeah,
It's mad.
it is.
So you told me you're in Costa Rica, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why Costa Rica? I was curious because I know that there's a trend when it comes to like Bali, Koh Samui,
Yeah.
Thailand, all that, like more like Southeast Asia. Why Central America?
It's absolutely beautiful out here, man. This is where the most biodiverse land on Earth is. You know, this has like the top 7% of all biodiversity in
Yeah,
one
it's
location.
beautiful. I've been to El Salvador last year,
Oh,
which is
cool.
just above you, and it's beautiful.
I mean, dude, the
Honestly,
energy out here is absolutely beautiful. Like, I'm even right now just looking off at like all this bamboo, this beautiful jungle energy, and it's like I just have Wi Fi and I'm settled, right? So I'm visiting here for the past 2 weeks. I've been here, went to a retreat by flowculture.xyz. You can look it up
oh,
online.
that's where you are. Okay, yeah, I saw that on
So I
your
went to that retreat to
stuff.
kickstart this trip. You know, I'm currently living in Fayetteville, Arkansas, out of all places. So it's a small town in like South USA, and from St. Louis, Missouri, originally in the city suburban area. And so, you know, coming out to places like this is really like a true energetic shift. You know, it's just absolutely beautiful. People are very kind. It's a cultural shift. The energy with the sunlight, with the birds you hear, the cicadas, it's just like there's no industrial energy at all, really. Especially when you're out of like the city limits here, where I'm in Dominical, in Uvita area in Costa Rica. So it's absolutely amazing out here, man. I'm also going to Envision Music Festival. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's one of the biggest music festivals off of the beach in like Dominical, and so it's like going to be a beautiful experience. A lot of conscious, I like to say conscious music and conscious individuals are attracted to it, along with like yoga shops, you know, breathwork shops, like all this stuff. Yeah, so out here next week starting that. And yeah, man, just coming out here to make a little month hiatus from my
That's
normal routine.
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing. Do you speak any Spanish, by the way, or not?
a little bit,
A
not
little bit,
really.
yeah.
I'm picking up
It'd be,
Duolingo and some
yeah,
stuff
same. I've
right
been
now.
on Duolingo for a while too, but I'm not, I've got to expose myself to the actual language and go to the country to,
That's
like you're
truth.
doing,
Yeah,
yeah. Because,
I'm going on the app and it's like, yeah, it's helpful. I'm learning some nuggets here
yeah,
and
you
there.
just learn some, the colors and the animals and stuff, but you're like,
Yeah,
I can't
that
really
stuff is really
communicate.
applicable to conversation. I'm coming to
I
realize,
guess
like,
I'll come later, but you've got to start somewhere, right?
yeah, it's interesting when I don't know why they really teach some of this basic. These words don't even seem like I don't know who designed some of these apps, but it's just like why am I learning, you know, about like the passporta and like things like that. I don't care about. I'm barely at the airport anyway. Why am I learning about the passport and like the suitcase, you know, and stuff? It's like I want to learn about like, hey, like what is your, you know, what is your name? Like we aren't even learning that stuff. Like just simple stuff like that. Like ¿cómo estás? You know, it's like how are you? It's like we don't even
Just
learn
stuck.
like that. Yeah, that's gonna be in like weeks time.
Yeah.
So But yeah, it's still helpful, and I like doing it
It's
every day
better
for
than
15,
yeah,
20 minutes.
it's better than nothing,
Yeah. And I think
honestly.
learning a language, just I've come to realize that looking into this language stuff is really like it's so good for your brain.
Oh, it's powerful. Yeah, I've covered that in one of my episodes, where just or did I? Maybe in the future one, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, just speaking because I'm fluent in French and English,
Nice, dude. Yeah.
and so now I'm trying to speak I'm trying to speak Spanish, and yeah, just the goodness it does to your brain, and it just reinforces neural pathways, and it's just great. And people are like, yeah, but it's pointless. Now you got Google Translate, blah blah blah. I'm like, it's not true. Like, and even if so, like, it'll be in 10, 15, 20, even 50 years, I think. So, and then there's people, learning programming languages. And I think that's going to be useless earlier than actually speaking or learning languages with AI.
Oh,
Like
right.
you won't need to program anymore because just AI will just program what you want it to do, and
Yeah.
that's it. So yeah,
Such
no,
a
learning
lazy
a
way
language
out,
is
though. There's such a lazy way to not use your brain. That's what I look at
yeah,
it as.
yeah. But where I agree with you on that. But if you look at the efficiency of it, like I do understand it does. It is better for you to actually go through the process of learning what you're actually coding and code it yourself. But I guess it'd be maybe more valuable to put your time in other aspects of your business or whatever you're
Oh,
doing with
I see
code.
what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, it
So
makes sense.
I guess it's just yeah, two sides to a coin.
There's different ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So walk me through your day. What's your typical day like? What do you eat? Especially now you're in Costa Rica with the retreat group.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Yeah. So I usually rise up around 6:30 a.m. to 7. Typical day. I like to go to bed right around 10:30, 11. Get a good amount of sleep. You know, when it comes to rising up, one of my favorite things to do is just take breaths in bed. I have no rush. I get up in a time frame to where it's like I have nothing scheduled. My number one rule nowadays, back in the day, wasn't like this, but don't have any calls scheduled within 2 hours of waking up. It's absolute essential. Because I would have these calls scheduled an hour after waking up. I'm just like, oh, I gotta kind of rush. It's like this
Yeah, and
energy around it.
you're not waking up properly yet. You're just still in this phase of transitioning from
Yeah.
awake from sleeping.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's so vital. A lot of people would say like, "Oh, it's not as productive doing this," but I really enjoy having the first hour to 2 hours of waking up and just feeling like I don't have to do anything besides just take care of my somatic body, right? So getting up, hydrating with some electrolytes, some maybe apple cider vinegar, lemon, that's a great way to kickstart the digestion. Get some sunlight right away, get outside immediately, direct sunlight. Even if it's a cloudy day, it's really important to do that for at least 30 minutes. Natural movement with that. Just, I don't really have anything forced, whether it's Qigong or yoga or just stretching or just kind of doing some
Just
breathing and
powerful
whatnot.
breathing, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of get some oxygenation going. And then, usually after that, I'll journal. Sometimes I don't even journal. I don't do any kind of mindset based things, but I'll journal for, 10 minutes, 5 minutes even, get some kind of heady based things. And then, lately I've been actually, because my mind is so ripe and I am in this transition of learning Spanish, I do feel confident when I pick up the phone. I'm very intentional. Before I even pick up the phone, I'm going to make sure, like, am I doing this with an intention, or am I going to immediately get sucked into this matrix of just like all these colors and buttons and notifications? So the first thing I do is verify, Christian, what am I doing to pick up the phone? Every time it's going to be like Duolingo or learning something where my mind is like fresh on like learning something. And so if I get like 15, 20, 30 minutes of like something like that done, I don't even need to go on the phone anymore until later on. So a rule of mine is like get on the phone 45 minutes plus after waking. It's not really a rule. It's just kind of a natural thing.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm in
You
the
do want
body.
to stick your phone in your face as soon as you wake up.
Yes.
It's the
Yes. I've done
worst
that
way to wake.
I've done that too many times in life,
Yeah,
man.
same.
Too many
We've all been
times.
there.
Yeah. And it's not a good feeling. We all know how that feels. And that's why I love helping people get out of that feeling of just like picking it up, being in bed, and then 30 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm finally getting out of bed. And then your brain is so in this dopamine that you're like, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? Versus what's now, right? So, yeah, a lot of those morning rituals, movement, essential, sunlight, hydration, introspection, meditation. I love to meditate for 5, 15, 20. It doesn't matter the time frame on it. I just sit with it.
What kind of meditation do you do? Just breath work? Or
It varies. Most of the time, no phone use, so it's just silence.
yeah.
Uh, I like to do that when I first wake up, though. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm conscious. I'm like, okay, cool. Just gonna close my eyes, even in bed, kind of move my body, expand my breath a little bit more. I like doing that first thing upon awakening before I get out of bed or before I engage with the material world. I like to just like work on myself and yeah, just like deep introspection, see what comes up.
Yeah. Do you
You
do
know,
any Wim Hof breathing techniques
I've
or?
done that quite a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
holotropic breath work of some sorts.
Mm-hmm.
I like last night, for instance, I did a contrast of the sauna. They have a sauna here at my friend's house. We
Mm-hmm.
went in the sauna, deep, deep,
Oh,
deep, deep, deep sweat, infrared sauna. And after that, did the cold plunge, which was right above freezing. It was like 3 degrees
ooh,
Celsius. So cold, dude.
nice.
Cathartic. And my hands felt like they were getting frostbite. It was that bad. But in that,
Wow.
so that's right after the heat, and so you have this like
Mhm.
crazy like feeling. It's just
Yeah, you
euphoric.
just euphoric and you're just like, whoa.
It's cathartic. Yeah, it's very cathartic. And sit in that and come back into the sauna. And then I did a little bit more of the ice plunge and I was done, rinsed off. And that was last night. And that felt really good just to do that human growth hormone boost. Like it's just really anabolic and healthy. So that'll be sprinkled in throughout the days, things like that, or a heavy lifting workout. And usually I'll have my first meal. Lately, I've been eating earlier in the day, a protein rich meal. After my coffee, with like, I'll put butter in my coffee or some heavy cream and like, yeah, some healthy fats. I load up on the saturated fats with my coffee to slow the caffeine absorption. It feels really good doing that. Add some cacao in it, maybe some honey, raw honey, and then I'll have that first meal within 2 hours, within 3 hours of waking. Usually it's 6, 7 eggs. Do not cook the yolk so you can preserve the nutrients. Cook it in some
Oh, that's
butter.
interesting. So you don't
Hmm.
cook the yolks. You
Don't
just
cook
so
the yolk.
you separate them.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay.
don't separate them. I just do it like over easy or sunny side up. So it's just like you
Okay.
cook the white
Yeah,
only.
so you just keep it like gooey and so okay.
Or I'll even slug raw eggs, 6 to 7 raw eggs. I'm pretty savage too. If I'm like in a time crunch and I'm like a productive day, I don't feel like cooking and I don't feel like sitting down. I get in that headspace a lot. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm kind of at that point in life now where I really, really savor and appreciate recipes and food, but also I'm just so simple with it where I don't even care. Like I'm just like, like I'll eat raw beef quite often too. I'm in this like raw carnivore eating foods lately, like raw animal based foods, raw milk, raw beef,
Raw
raw
liver.
eggs, raw liver. Yeah, yeah. And I feel really good. My skin feels more hydrated. My gut digests it better. I haven't ever gotten sick. People are like, "Oh, dude, you're gonna get some bacterial infection." But
That's
if
all
you're,
they all say that when it comes to carnivore diet. They're like, oh, when you're eating raw stuff, they're you're gonna get sick.
dude,
Guess what? No.
it's such an interesting download in our brain because in our culture, I mean, how often have you had sushi, raw salmon, beef tartare, ceviche? These are all common recipes we see at like high level restaurants, right? We don't see it in like typical places because a lot of times it's mystery meat, and so this meat's coming from factory farmed,
You
like just
didn't really know
nasty
where it's
places.
from, how fresh it is, so you can't
Yeah, you
really
don't know how
risk it.
fresh
Yeah.
it is. It was probably hard. Like they killed an animal 6 months ago, left it in the freezer. Like it's just disgusting, right? It's not like it was, an animal that was actually raised properly on regenerative land, grass fed, and then it was, killed recently and it was packaged and there's no contamination. So the issues with raw meat and raw foods from animals is that it will get contaminated if it's not handled properly and the processing's bad. And then you can smell it and then you have your red flag. Don't eat it. Or you can even, I mean, you can eat sometimes if it smells like shit, and sometimes that bacteria can be good for you. It's an interesting concept, but it's just being aware of like, is my gut already compromised? Because if your gut's already compromised and there's
And you're already weak,
dysbiosis,
yeah.
then you're
Then you
most likely
just
going to get ill, right?
mm-hmm. That
So
makes
there's
sense.
many nuances to it, but yeah, I've been on this kind of like animal based eating. Eat my first meal around the midday, and then I usually have 3 meals a day. A lot of beef, a lot of eggs, a lot of animal fats and stuff, and then I throw in extra virgin olive oil, avocado, blueberries, fruit, arugula or rocket. Just a lot of different
Okay.
greens, herbs.
So no
Very simple
carbs.
diet. No, actually, I eat carbs too. Sweet potato,
Yeah.
potato,
Okay.
white rice. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I've been limiting the number of ingredients I eat because I used to eat these ready-made stuff or these jars of with like 20 ingredients. So I've
Mm.
been limiting. So my ingredients intake. So I just limit like I just eat usually just red meat, sweet potato, avocado, eggs, pasta. I'm in this phase where I'm going to the gym frequently. I'm trying to gain some body weight,
Mm-hmm.
some muscle, and you get these calories in. I'm very well. I used to be very thin. I'm still very thin. My metabolism is over the roof.
Yeah, you probably need five
So,
to 6,000
yeah,
calories or
exactly.
something.
So I just need so many calories, and it's like cost effectively. I can't get these calories through meat or through
Yeah,
healthier.
they're too satiating, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. So I have to eat the pasta and the simple carbohydrates.
Yeah, more carbs I
Unfortunately,
eat, the
yeah.
more I can gain mass and
Yeah,
fat. Yeah.
and then the problem I get with that is then I just get brain fog in the middle of the day because I'm just
Mm,
feel stuffed and I just can't work. So I'm in this
yeah.
phase where do I want to prioritize my work or my health?
That's
Should I do
the kind
both?
of that's the catch, man. The catch
Yeah.
22 is like, okay, how do I have productivity, focus, energy while I can still gain mass? And that's always been a challenge for me too. But there's ways to work around it. It's as long as you can get like I always recommend you just throw in like a 15-20 minute walk after every meal, a brisk walk, and that can help you kind of work through some of the insulin spike, the blood sugar spike, and it won't like burn the calories enough to where you're not able to gain
Yeah,
that
well,
mass.
it's just
But
useless. Yeah, okay, yeah.
it'll just help it for like the blood
Okay,
sugar
so
regulation.
it's just a quick walk afterwards. Okay,
Yeah, it's a good
that
way to
makes
go.
sense. Perfect. And do you take any supplements? Of any kind? And what's your list? What do you
Yeah,
take?
so I've explored, I want to say hundreds of supplements over the years, and it's there's ones that I found out that are most vital and most important because some of them are just a waste of money or they're overhyped. There's marketing on it. Um, Supplements are really important today, and the reason is that over as we get older, our ability to assimilate nutrients goes down. That's a big part of it, right? Our gut health goes down. So it's important to take gut health supplements to improve the gut health. Environmental toxins increase our demand for nutrients. Heavy metals, plastics, xenoestrogens, everything like that will increase our demand for a lot of these nutrients that we can get from supplemental form. Stress is higher than ever before. So how do we prevent this cycle, negative feedback loop of more stress, lower nutrients, more stress, lower nutrients? So certain key supplements help out. I take a multitude of different ones. I cycle through a lot of them too. It's not like I take them every single day, but some essentials are definitely magnesium. I think that's a really important mineral that most people would benefit greatly taking because they say 70% of the population is deficient in it quite a bit. And magnesium helps out with stress levels, deep sleep. It has over 400 enzymatic functions, which means basically it helps out with your bone density, from your nervous system to your brain health to your hormones, testosterone production. So magnesium I've been taking almost daily for years. That's a really good one to get. Glycinate's a good form. Just make sure you look at the form of it. Um, I'm a big fan of Shilajit. That also has a ton of minerals in it. It's this ancient
Hmm.
resin from the Himalayan
Yeah,
mountain.
I've seen that all over it popped up recently all over social media, like
Yeah,
I think like 5 months ago, and
it's
everybody's
getting
just talking
over.
about it.
It's getting pretty mainstream and hype. So you got to be careful with certain brands and where they're resourcing it. Make sure it's tested for heavy metals and things because it's pretty funny how things can just like go like this and then all of a sudden just shoot up. And for me, it's like I've taken a lot of these supplements for years and now they're getting mainstream, which is cool to see because it's like, oh wow, I remember taking this when I was exploring this field. And so yeah, Shilajit is definitely a good one to take. I'm a big fan of just like certain things to help out with vitamin D3 synthesis. Vitamin D3 can be helpful to take too if you're
Okay,
not getting sun. But
D3,
taking it
yeah,
with
that's the one I'm taking
nice.
at the moment. Yeah.
Taking that with vitamin K2, right? You want to make sure to take it with vitamin K2. So if you are taking D3, take
Okay,
it with
how
vitamin K2.
come? Why is
Vitamin
it that?
K2 is like its little compadre friend in your body that
Mm-hmm.
helps synthesize it and convert it into your cells more readily. So it prevents you from having, let's say you take a vitamin D3 alone, you're going to elevate it in your blood level concentration extremely high. Vitamin K2 is like, hey, bro, let's go into the cell. Let's go into your
Okay,
bones.
so he
Let's
just
go
takes
into
it by the
the
hands and just
yeah,
brings
yeah, yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So it's like your side compadre going to a party, right? It's like you go into a party alone's great, but going with a friend helps it enhance the experience and actually.
Okay.
So
Okay. So vitamin K2. Okay.
hmm
Okay. Cool.
with it,
Okay.
yeah, you can take it at the same time. Take vitamin D3 earlier in the day because it's like the sunlight. You don't want to take it at night. It's a hormone. Vitamin D3 is a hormone, so you definitely don't want to take high doses of it every single long term.
Is it gonna keep you awake? I think
No,
is
not
that what I heard.
necessarily
No,
keeping you
not
awake, but it
necessarily.
does have some biochemical reactions because in that high dose, it'd be like you saturated in the sun for hours. That'd be like the idea. So it's like when you're sleeping, you don't necessarily want the stimulus as if you're in the sun, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Um, there's so many other supplements. I'd say just prioritizing gut health is really, really important. There's so many ones out there, but digestive enzymes can be helpful for assimilating nutrients more, breaking down foods, especially a high protein diet that can be helpful for a lot of athletes and high protein eaters, which I recommend everyone eats a lot of protein. certain probiotics are key. A lot of them are junk on the market. They don't do shit. And so make sure you get like spore-based probiotics. Those are really helpful for the gut. Or just certain ones like Lactobacillus plantarum is a type of probiotic that's a transient probiotic. So you take it in the mouth
I
and it
try to
goes out
follow.
the end. Yeah, I know this is all like crazy deep stuff. But basically, just do your research on stuff.
Yeah.
The thing is, I could say do your research, but you're going to probably find research that you can
Research is
find.
compromised nowadays. Everybody is saying everything,
You could
anything,
search
and
anything online and get the answer to what you want to
yeah,
believe in.
exactly. And
I,
that's dangerous.
it's so dangerous. Like I
It's
could look
dangerous as
online,
hell.
why is vegan the best diet ever? Or I could say, why is carnivore the best diet ever? Or I could say, why is this nutrient super essential for taking as a supplement? And you're going to get the answer to it, right? You're going to get your answer that you want to create for it. It's so crazy. So I don't even. That's the funny part. I was mentioning this in the beginning of the podcast. Like I love modern science. I love studies, but it doesn't really mean shit to me anymore because everything is fucking diluted.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
So intuition, testing it for yourself is the best.
Yeah,
best
just
way
trying. Yeah, just experimenting with yourself. Try different things. See what works. See what doesn't work. Because I guess what works for you wouldn't work for me. Or do you think it sort of works for everyone?
It's definitely nuance to it.
Okay.
Most people would benefit from magnesium. Most people would benefit from shilajit. So there's kind of a blank state for a lot of these things. Most people would benefit from having some form of beef, elk, bison, deer in their diet every once in a while, venison, right? Like having some level of it. Like for me, I have an European descent. I do really well with high saturated fats. My cholesterol, my triglycerides, I do really well with that stuff. Some people who have like African descent, let's say they're black, they have deeply ingrained tropical region energy. So they probably won't do well having beef every single day. They may do best having it once a week or once every 2 weeks or once a month. So there's so many nuances to this. With nutrition, there's never black and white. Everyone's trying to make it out to be that there's a black and white with this. It's not like that. So, and the same goes for all these other, hacks and stuff, whatever you want to call them.
Okay. Just I have one question when it comes to supplements. Is what does sunlight do more than vitamin D to your body?
Oh, like if you get the sunlight versus taking it as a supplement.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, when you go in sunlight, you're not just getting vitamin D3, you're getting serotonin boosted from it. Like when you lay in the sun, you can immediately feel like just calm. You can just feel like calmer, right? When you have direct sunlight, it's an interesting feeling. So it's serotonergic. It boosts serotonin, which is great for your feel-good hormone. It's also improving melanin production. Melanin is your skin tan. So I'm really tan right now. I've been getting a lot of direct light. That also makes you look sexier. That's great. But it also the tan itself is melanin, which is it's a cell that operates like an antioxidant. So when you get that stimulated and tan, you're literally stimulating antioxidant production, antioxidizing production, right?
Okay.
So there's another thing. Yeah, testosterone production. Vitamin D3 has been shown to boost hormones, boost testosterone. Well, why is that happening? Well, it's because it's basically the cascade of things going on in the body it's a hormone. So when you get sunlight, you're actually boosting testosterone. That's why they say like tanning naked is tanning your balls a little bit every day or like a minute, 5 minutes, whatever, is good for androgens downstairs. So you can boost testosterone by that. Yeah.
So you boost you boost testosterone through exposing your balls to the sun.
Yeah, the genitals to the sun, man, the solar panels of the body. Yeah. It's actually amazing, dude. I do it just about every day here in Costa Rica. And another reason is like I don't like tan lines. My ultimate goal is no tan lines. So
anyway, just none. Yeah.
None.
Have you were you ever in the situation where you were tanning those areas and somebody would just come up and be like, oh shit?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, even at friends' houses, I'm just like, oh shit, sorry, I was just tanning naked. They're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, those types of situations are hilarious. But yeah, I think there's so many reasons to get sunlight. It's also good for your eyeballs. It's so good for your vision. It's so good for, we're up to these screens 24/7. It feels, we're up to, it's so not normal for humans to be close looking at screens within 5 feet. Indoors as well. And so when you have outdoor light and you can look in the distance at a horizon for some time, it's so good for your lens adapting to the distance to help out with your vision instead of just like,
okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because you just always focus on just such a close screen.
Yeah, that's why people's myopia is getting worse and worse. Nearsightedness is an issue. Yeah,
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I have it too.
unfortunately.
I have a prescription. I've been wearing, glasses my entire life, contacts my entire life, and so now I'm just like, I don't wear them as much anymore, and I kind of just like let my eyes figure it out.
You
So
do you do are you gonna do a operation at some point so
like
to
LASIK
fix
or
your
something.
eyes? Yeah,
I
or
thought
not?
about it. I'm really on this mission over the past 8 months, not wearing my contacts or glasses very often and looking off in the distance
To try and
and
fix that?
yeah, practicing eye exercises because when even doing this feels good. Try it out, like doing little circles. You feel like the muscles stretching a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of stress relieving. Yeah, it's kind of funny looking, but looking up and things like that, it's really good for your eyeballs working the muscles around it, right?
Okay,
So
yeah, because I did see you uploaded a video on improving your eyesight naturally.
yeah,
I
yeah,
believe,
there's a
yeah.
YouTube video on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about some of these strategies. Yeah, I think it's really helpful to work on these types of things because I think we can heal. We can heal. We can heal with anything. It just requires a mindset, and it also requires the bodily set. What are you giving your body?
Just while we're still in the space of, supplements, eating, what's your take on psychedelics?
Psychedelics, man, I absolutely love them. So it's actually funny. By me saying I love them, I'm not saying everyone should do them. I think there's a time and place for everyone, and there's set and setting to consider. How is your state of mind when you're about to use these medicines? Is there an intention set there, or are you doing it for fun, whatever? And also, how is your setting? Are you in an environment that it feels safe? You feel like there's no iffy kind of negative, nefarious energy. You're secure. There's two questions I always ask: how's my set? How's my setting? How's my intention? How's my mindset? How is the outside environment? Right. So when it comes to psychedelics, though, I mean, they've changed my life. When it comes to opening up perspectives, they all have their unique way of changing the circuitry in the brain. And for me, in particular, I've sat with a variety of different ones. Mushrooms, in particular, is my ultimate favorite. Microdosing and also doing it.
Mushrooms or truffles? I guess because
Mushrooms, yeah, there's
I know
similar
there's
overlap.
different kinds. Yeah.
Psilocybin, right?
Okay.
So I find mushrooms are super easy access for most people. There's so many different strains that fit different criteria. Like Golden Teacher can help out with just like it's a little bit lighter versus like Shiva Lingam, known as like penis envy, they call it. It's a little bit more visual cortex stimulating, colorful, and things like that. So there's different. They can work in different applications of the body and mind. But in general, mushrooms have been a really beautiful teacher when it comes to just presence and connecting to the natural world more so, right? I think they really have helped me just feeling more calm and understanding where my soul's at, where I want to go, what the future holds, gratitude for my family, gratitude for people, introspection galore. Like, it's just amazing. And it's short lived to some degree. It's like 4 to 6 hours, generally speaking, for a trip.
Yeah,
If you're
I've
taking
heard.
4 grams, or even if you're taking zero point 0.1 and it's just a microdose, like I might even do that later today to kind of spark some neurons and stuff. But that's a great one. That's a great one. I love mushrooms. It's one of my favorites. And then I also, I've sat with LSD quite a bit. LSD is
Okay.
really epic because it's more of like a higher level, like
Yeah.
intellect, masculine energy.
Yeah.
Gets
Acid.
my like linear thinking kind of going. It feels like you're in a video game. It's freaking awesome. Haven't sat with it in a while, but next week at this music festival, I'll be enjoying that. And MDMA is beautiful. Absolutely love MDMA. I think just the heart opening effect of it is just so brilliant and beautiful. It just, the love is incredible. Like, they even have studies where there's individuals that are just like struggling immensely with a partnership, like a wife and a husband or whatever. They're just fighting a lot. They do MDMA together, and then they have a therapist guide them through some of the issues they're having. And all of a sudden, they just like, after that even setting, they just come to terms with one another on some of the issues they've been having within the relationship, and then they can refruit some of the love between one another. And I think that's
Okay.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It can open up new perspective, Molly, and allows you to see the other person's shoes and empathy, right? And Molly or MDMA. DMT is a wild one. It's short lived, 5 to 15 minutes, 5 to 20 minutes if you do a higher dose. And I sat with that years ago, and that was a wild experience because it just feels like everything shoots up into this ether, and felt like I was just one with God in all things. It felt like the complete dichotomy of life and death, and darkness and light, and children and old, like young and old. It was nature, tech, like everything was opposing, but it was all in unity. So beautiful. But it also was pretty terrifying at the same time because you dissociate from everything. Like, you're just pure consciousness. So DMT taught me not to fear death. That was like the main thing DMT
Wow.
taught me. It's
Okay.
like I'm not scared of death. I feel like I can go into death knowing that it's similar to DMT. It feels that way.
Okay.
Um,
So you wouldn't be scared to just dying tomorrow?
no, it's tomorrow. If anything, that's the thing too, is meditating on
I love
death.
your mindset. That's yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't have control over that, right? And like
Yeah.
I could die at any moment. What's the point of living in fear? There's a Marcus Aurelius quote where it's if you're living in fear of death, you're not truly living, something along those lines, because you're living in a form of non-existent reality, right? So it takes you away from the present moment. So yeah, I think death is one of those things that meditating on that, memento mori is the phrase for that. In ancient Stoicism, that's a good thing to meditate on, is death. Not in a way that's like, oh, I want to die or I want my family to die. That's sick and morbid, right? But more so like death is inevitable. You're gonna die. I'm gonna die. My family's gonna die. Everything is going to die.
That's what
Yeah, exactly.
makes life beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel up.
But there's so many other psychedelics and plant medicines out there. Peyote is one that I plan on sitting with actually this weekend. It's the cactus, originating from Mexico, and yeah, that's apparently a really beautiful experience. And my intention with that is just to merge a better understanding of my path and understand where I want to go when it comes to this upcoming year in 2024. That's my intention with it, is just like merging what is my masculine and feminine core and how do I work with that more so. So
Yeah,
that'll be
I heard you're big on the whole masculinity, femininity, essence, and energy. I guess you read the book Whale the Superior Man, right?
one of the
Yeah,
best. Yeah,
I,
David
I just
Deida.
I finished it recently. It's great.
Such a good
It's a
book.
great book,
So
honestly.
simple. Yeah, I try
Yeah,
to read that once a year, even just as a good refreshment. And his philosophies are really, really tried and true, I find, when it comes to navigating women, work, and sexual desire. That's the subtitle. So it's true. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
good one.
What do you do when you take psychedelics? Do you just like meditate? Do you work? Do you just go for a walk? Or,
hmm
and I guess it depends on the psychedelic you're taking, right?
Yeah, it depends on it. Some of them are ceremonial, and so a lot of them are like a plant medicine related thing. So there's like this interesting connection to ancient tradition, and so
Oh,
like
okay.
things like the peyote cactus has been used for thousands of years. That's something that's going to be set in more of a drum circle setting. There's going to be singing. There's going to be music, meditation stuff. Yeah, pretty cool. And then there's the applications like LSD. It's more of like a new age kind of modern synthetic type thing, right? So it's like I can do that and just like go on a walk in nature, or even just like meditate in my room, or just like have my notebook out, or just like something that's a little bit more heady in a way. And then mushrooms are one of those things that you can pretty much do anytime, anywhere. I plan on doing a very, very high dose of it, 5+ grams, and just putting a blindfold on and sitting comfortably in my bed, having like water and certain things,
Just
and
having
just
just a
coming
huge
inward.
big trip, yeah.
Yeah, inward
Just
only.
collapsing onto yourself and just
Yes,
experiencing.
exactly, and just falling, cascading within myself versus being more material, external. Like, okay, I'm looking at these trees, I'm looking at that. Like, that's more of just like connecting with the material realm, which is great too. But I haven't sat like fully enveloped in myself. And I think there's all these applications you can go with it. But yeah, it just depends on the psychedelic, the theogen they call it, which is like the power within you. And so yeah, it really depends. But that's like a general synopsis of it.
Mhm. And I also heard that I saw that through your. I've got this tendency of calling YouTube videos episodes now. It's just I've been watching too many podcasts.
Yeah.
I saw your video where you were talking about the healthy use cases of weed,
hmm
marijuana. I don't think we can consider that psychedelic. But do you still take some, use it? In what
Yeah.
cases?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Depending on the energy of it, I have an interesting relationship with cannabis where I've used it, or I haven't used it, but I sat with it. I had intentional practices with it, but I also, it's been in my life since I was like 15, 16 years old. So I have opened up so many beautiful pathways of consciousness through it: music appreciation, laughs with friends, just calming yin energy, like that feminine, loving energy, but also it is one of those things that is powerful. And so many people today are like, it's just cannabis, it's just weed. It's like, no, that is actually a powerful, powerful medicine.
It's a powerful
And the
plant.
more we just abuse it every single day, the more we become numb to our current reality. And I know this firsthand. I've been there myself. So I find like if we have a deep intention and we integrate just as much as we integrate with other psychedelics. Like, what's the point of doing it if you don't have a action orientation around it? To know and
Mm.
not do is to never truly
Yeah,
know.
otherwise it's just escapism. You're just escaping.
Escapism, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
escapism.
And
Yeah.
most people are falling into the escapism category.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are. Most guys, especially, they smoke it
Yeah.
chronically every day, and they don't really enjoy their jobs. They don't enjoy their current relationships, whatever it may be, and they're currently just using this as a way to like get out of their current state of mind. And
Yeah, I had
yeah,
some friends that went through that at
it's one of
some
those
point.
things. Yeah, and I went through it
Mm-hmm.
at some point, and I think that it comes in my life on and off. It's not one of those things I intentionally sit with every day, maybe once a week. Sometimes it's once every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's once a month.
Mm.
It just kind of flows.
And do you smoke it or ingest it?
I use a vaporizer, so it
Oh,
doesn't.
I heard about that. Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't
it's like
combust it. Yeah,
yeah. Apparently, it's just healthier for the lungs, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay, it's more expensive though. I heard
yeah. I mean,
it's a
you
bit
could drop
pricey.
$200,
Yeah,
$300 for a good little vaporizer. It lasts for a
and
very, very,
as you
very
said,
long time.
for the red lights, it's just if you use it frequently, then it's not that expensive when you think about it.
Exactly. If you use something consistently, quality over quantity any day. I actually
Yeah.
just bought hand pans, like the
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just bought one of those, and yeah, it was
Having fun.
$1,500.
Wow.
Yeah, bro, that's a lot.
Is it
Right?
like one of those like really traditional ones,
Oh,
or
it's like the best on the market type. Most of them that are good quality. If you actually want
you
to
just
spend,
went all in on it?
yeah,
I
man.
want that one.
Oh, I'm gonna, I asked some friends for recommendations, and they said if you really want to get something, don't waste your money on buying $300, $400, $500 ones. They're not worth
Mm.
it. They're not gonna have that
So the
sound that so
quality, the
resonates.
sound, the crisp, yeah.
Yeah, and then also if you're taking care of it, I'm gonna have this forever. I'm gonna be like 50 playing the same one, right? As long as I don't
Just
damage it.
passing it down to your kin,
Yeah,
to your
exactly,
children.
man. It's gonna last forever. So, might as well drop it on that. And then if I play it every day for 3 4 years, or 4 or 5 years, it's gonna be $1 a day, right? 365 in a year, like it's perfectly. That's how I look at things nowadays. I only invest good money in quality things. There's no reason to buy little cheap knickknacks here and there that don't really last. My dad's got that mindset. I've broken that tradition. All love to you, Dad, but he's just so into like, oh, this is $2, this is $3, it's on sale, and he puts it in a drawer and it's never touched again, right? So it's like, why do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering because do you consider yourself spiritual to a certain extent or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all spiritual beings. I think the word spiritual is such a convoluted word though, because it's like there's like two different groups of people. There are like the people that are super, you can almost look at it as like our Alex Ramosi I referenced earlier, right? Alex Ramosi isn't really spiritual whatsoever. You can just tell based on how his lifestyle is. He's very materialistic. He likes to work hard. He likes to business, business, business. He doesn't really care about a spiritual practice, which is like meditation. He doesn't talk about that stuff. He's just about how do I make money
Just
efficiently and how,
acting, yeah.
yeah, and that's great. I think there's people like that we need in the world, but I'm not like that as a person. I think there's a part of me that is like that. And then there's the people who are airy fairy. Oh my God, I've done so many drugs, and I'm like, I love to like, or like psychedelics, and I'm like, oh, I practice this like like 4 or 5 hours a day. They're just like meditating, they're practicing yoga, they're doing all these like kind of in the body stuff, which is so important to do. But at the end of the day, are you really changing the world? Are you really making an impact on people's health? Are you doing anything for the greater good? No, you aren't. You're just focused on you, and like the spiritual enlightenment. And I think the same for monks that just meditate for years every day, all day. I think that's something that's like cool, like to some degree, introspection, but like you're not really making any difference on the planet. And I started coming to
Mm.
realize like that is pretty shallow, actually.
It's actually when you think of it, it's perhaps even just selfish. Because
It's selfish.
it's
You
just
have this
yeah.
heart and spirit as a human to portray some change in the world, and you're choosing just to
Mm-hmm.
come inward the whole way through instead of extrinsically changing the world, right? So I like the divine duality of both, like what I mentioned in my morning routine, taking time for myself, but also what can I do to create? What can I create with
Yeah,
this
it's
energy?
about balance. Yeah, you just do a bit of both.
And that's
Bit
where
of
the
both
spirit,
worlds.
like being spiritual, is introspection and exteroception. It's taking your awareness outside of you, right? Versus just like inward. So I think that's my philosophy on
Mm-hmm.
that.
Because the reason I'm asking is to also follow up with if you're religious to any.
Oh yeah. Because
Yeah,
religion
you.
is definitely
Yeah,
different than spirituality. So
yeah.
I was raised Christian. I was raised very Christian. My mom and parents are very Christian. So I resonate
Mm-hmm.
mostly with Christianity and religion.
Wait, what state are you from again?
Missouri, St. Louis,
Missouri.
Missouri.
Okay.
Yeah, in the States. So, well, in the U.S., not necessarily the States, but
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that, like, I think having a sense of a higher power, God, you're going to live a longer life. You're going to feel more connected to other people because we're all God at the end of the day. But if you get too textbook based with some religions, in my perspective at least, it detaches you from the core of actually being a spiritual being, because then you're relying on your spiritual essence through words, through certain church-based governmental intertwining practices that aren't necessarily in line with what Jesus may have actually wanted for you. So Yahweh, Jesus, who was that man? Well, some say he was just like a guy who was very enlightened. He was given this power by God. He was the son of God, and he died on the cross, rose again to free us from our sins, and that's it, right? Something like that, some story. But really, if you really dig into the archives of who he was and take a deeper, broader perspective, he was you and I. That's all it is. He's not someone outside of us. Jesus is actually transfiguring God's energy into a material plane that we can make a difference spiritually to other people and heal ourselves. So Jesus is literally you and I. He's within us. Jesus is God. God is Jesus.
He's a part of us, and we're part
Is
of
a
him.
part of
Yeah.
us, right? So the problem with common day Christianity, Catholicism, even some of these other religions is the core of it is it detaches us from God within. And therefore, it makes us feel like we have to rely on a system to connect with God. We have to rely on the priest to connect with God. We have to rely on the preacher to connect with God. We have to rely on someone who's already connected with God to relay the information to God. We have to connect with the
So
church
you,
to
yeah.
connect with
So
God,
you
right?
think they added all these like extra steps? It's sort of
It's not even
detaching
it's
you.
not even
Yeah.
steps. It's like they completely disempower us to make us feel like we can't connect with God. It's
On our
almost
own.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, on our own,
We need the help
exactly.
of the church and the priest and
And
other external people.
and this is where the plant medicines come in from earlier. We talked about is they can relay this information and connection to God to where you realize, holy shit, God's within me this whole time. And that's what the realization some of these psychedelics has got me, not in an ego sense like I am God, raise me. No, it's like I have this ability to help others, help myself, live in accordance to nature, and use God's wisdom with pure unconditional love by understanding that it's within me, not outside of me. So like that is the problem with this daily religion is these practices just think like, oh, reading this scripture is going to help me connect to God. It's like, yeah, to some degree, maybe the words inspire you to be a better person, but is that really helping you connect with God? No. What's going to help you connect with God is just loving yourself, loving others, eating nutritious foods, moving your body, soaking up sun, connecting
Taking
to
care of your
nature,
loved ones.
meditation, breath work. Those are ways to connect with God, right? Pain, embracing pain is a way to connect with God. Like,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's where my philosophy is on that. It's a freaking
Yeah.
mouthful, but yeah.
Yeah. No. No. But yeah. So you, Christian is to a certain degree Christian.
Yeah, Christian's Christian. Freaking, I love that.
Now I'm just gonna ask you a very deep question before we start ending this off. Is what drives you and what's your purpose? Like, what is all this for? And yeah, just what's your purpose, man?
I love this question. So I help a lot of my clients and people guide them towards a sense of purpose. And to start off, what is purpose? Purpose is something that is related to what we just discussed. It's within you. It's not outside of you. So a lot of people think you find purpose, like you find it, right? It's something that you have to like search for, and all of a sudden you find it. It's like, no, that's actually the idea of finding your purpose is it's outside of you. If we say we find purpose, we have to look outside of us to find it. But really, our purpose is within us just as much as God is within us. Purpose and God are kind of the same in many ways. So, purpose is something you cultivate, it's not something you find. And so, with purpose, my purpose I've cultivated over the years through, what comes natural to me, what activities I've enjoyed as a child and I was called to when I was young, what puts me in the flow state or the zone, and connecting those questions that I've introspectively pondered for so long, connecting that to God is where I found my purpose. And my purpose today is to love nature and love God, and to energize and empower people to live a more adventurous, happy, healthy life. So it's just a very simple statement I go back to. I journal about it frequently, but it's to energize and empower people to live a more adventurous, happy, healthy life, maybe a spiritual driven life, connection to nature life, something along those lines where it encapsulates who I am. Energy, empowering people, that gives me a sense of purpose. Connecting people to more of an adventurous, playful life, a more healthy, abundant life. Those are my attitude of gratitude. That's what I go into every day when it comes to my purpose. And so that's my purpose, man. I mean, The question is like, do my values align with who I am every day? That's what I'm always asking. Am I aligning my habits, my actions to my values? And the times I don't, it's degrading to the soul, and it can really make me feel down on myself. And that could be from a multitude of things. It could be from so many different things, right? Like, am I on tech excessively all day, every day? When I'm preaching things connecting to nature, right? That goes against my value system. That makes me feel bad that day. It makes me feel drained. It makes me feel tired. It makes me feel shameful, guilty. And those are things that are against your value system and purpose. So, or my purpose and value system. So, yeah, I think it's important to cultivate your purpose through asking those questions I mentioned earlier, and to ponder what are my values and segment that into it with God. So that's where I got right there.
Perfect. Now this is an interesting question that I wanted to ask you personally is, if and when you become a father, how would you envision incorporating your whole lifestyle into the upbringing of your child, and any specific principles, foods you would want to give them?
I love that, man. Yeah, I will be a father someday, and I will have an incredible relationship with an amazing chica at some point. And I think the most important things that I recognize for my child is patience that I'm going to have, because I have some nephews. I've been around a lot of children throughout my life, and I see the way parenting is done, and I really appreciate some of the aspects of the parents I've been around and their children. But there's also certain ways I would be a little bit more different, and I think patience is a key part of it. Where if the child is crying, or the child is really rambunctious, it's not being impulsive to react, and then all of a sudden you get triggered, and then you trigger them to feel even worse, or there's something that cascades outside of their emotions, right? So a regulated nervous system is a superpower nowadays. And I think one of the biggest things that I would keep in mind and keep checked on is, am I being regulated around my child because of their impulsivity? Children are exploring, they're constantly crying, they're constantly going through different phases of emotions, they're learning who they are. And that's going to be from birth all the way up until they're 20 years old or more, right? So a sense of patience is so key. And I would also incorporate, yeah, nutrition is huge, being breastfed, not being getting synthetic, milks and stuff for their youth. That's important for their brain development, their energy, and their microbiome. And no vaccines, absolutely not. I don't believe in that, so I don't think there's necessary.
Yeah, you didn't take the COVID vaccine, right?
No, I didn't get the COVID
Yeah,
vaccine, but when I was a
me neither.
child, I got tons of
Yeah,
vaccinations
oh,
because my
same,
parents didn't know
same.
better. So
Exactly. They just try to do what's best for us,
yeah.
right?
And
And
then
they
nowadays, we didn't
misguide
have that
us.
information. We didn't have that information back then that vaccines were bad. Now it's like over the past 20 years, we're starting to realize, like, yeah, that stuff's bad, right? So yeah, I got all the little crazy little pumps in my body when I was younger, and I'm sure that's played a big role in my immune system. I've had issues with over the years, and so yeah, I think a really toxin-free lifestyle, zero plastics for the kid to put in their mouth when they're growing up, just little things like that, like sprays, chemicals, very clean, natural environment, getting them outside in the circadian light as much as possible, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
zero tech at all
I was
until
about
they're
to
like
ask if
14,
you.
13 maybe.
Okay, so
Um,
absolutely
take,
none, not even like movies or
I mean, yeah, that'll be
animations,
fine. I'm
like
not going to be like restrictive, like never touch the screen or something. I'm just, I'm not going to make them
yeah.
be like a crazy, crazy kid. But I don't think I'll put them in the educational system until they're. I don't think I'll
Another
ever
question.
put
Yeah,
them in the educational system. I'll
yeah. So it's self-teaching.
I'm gonna support my wife to where she doesn't have to work ever, and she can just be with the children until they're old. I don't want her to feel like she has to work. I think the traditional living is a great way to go in many ways if she reciprocates that. And I still want her to create things. I want her to be an entrepreneur, but I want her to also be the caretaker, the mother, and raise these children. Like, I'll be the guy that will come home from work and
with
stuff, and
with the ball.
with the killed hauling the elk in, and we got food for the wintertime, type energy. So
I
um
mean, no, that's beautiful, man.
yeah, so things like that, those are basic things, but really connection to nature is absolutely essential for I will have land with water supply, maybe animals, chickens, all the things to keep them engaged with the real world.
Yeah, and that would. Where do you see that being? In what country or continent?
Mm,
Do you know? Like,
I have no clue at this
no
point.
clue.
Yeah,
Because
no clue. I think
I mean,
Costa Rica is really calling to
yeah,
me, though. I think something like
okay.
this for
Because I was
sure.
gonna say, if you're in Costa Rica right now, I guess you've done some traveling in your life, right?
Yeah, nothing
And then
abroad in
you've,
Europe
yeah.
and stuff like that. I haven't been to Europe yet, but
Oh,
I've
okay.
been, I've been to Mexico. I've been to Costa Rica. Here I am today. Traveled around all the, West and East Coast, and Colorado and places like that, but Hawaii. But I haven't really felt captivated to being in the States for raising my child. I think getting a getting like their passport and being a Costa Rican resident is something that I find would be really beneficial. Born into the country, away from
Yeah,
the States.
absolutely, yeah.
The States is going to shit to some degree. So.
Bro,
Yes.
Europe is too, man. Honestly, even
Yeah,
the
it really
UK,
is.
it's. Don't know if you heard
Australia
that.
is getting
Yeah,
fucked.
there's
Like all of it.
the farmers strike, agricultural
Oh
strike in
yeah, and
Europe.
it's not even being reported on the news and stuff. That's the crazy part
Yeah,
about
and
it.
honestly, if you obviously I've got family all over Belgium, France, UK, and it's catastrophic. Honestly, if you see the sale of Paris, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
damn. So I think that's a wrap up, man. I think I've got one last question. It's just what advice would you give to someone that wants to get in this whole self improvement, what do you call it, bio-harmonizing?
Yeah, bio-harmonizing, man. I would say, dude, the number one thing is just get off your phone every once in a while, and set a good boundary, set a good relationship with it, and just get out in nature. Simple as that. All your answers are in nature. Your creative spirals will come out of nature, right? All my creative work has really been just from silent retreat, nature time, looking off in the distance at a horizon, whether it's a mountain, it's just trees, it's anything related to just breathing the fresh air, getting the sunlight, looking out at nature. It's just like, that's your answers are there. They really are. It's what I was saying earlier. Like, you don't need to look outside of yourself for answers. All that's within you. So I think getting out in nature, make that a simple habit every day, whether it's once a day. So I like to say microdose nature throughout the week, and then make a macro dose once a week. So you can like microdose, like going on the walks, going to a local park, spending 30 minutes just meditating in your backyard. Like, that's microdosing it. And then once a week, just take a big trip, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, all day, hiking, going somewhere nearby. And just, everyone has nature somewhere around you. Even if you live in the city, you can drive 20 minutes and go to somewhat of a city park or something with trees and stuff. Like, just macrodose it once a week, microdose once throughout the week.
So Christian, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, man. So you guys can all find me at cvcwellness.com. It's Christian Van Camp. So cvcwellness.com, or you can on any platform whatsoever look at CVC Wellness, and you'll find me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Threads on Instagram. You can find me at TikTok at CVC Wellness. And yeah, if you want to join my email list, it's a great place to stay in touch. cvcwellness.com, you'll see a little pop-up, enter your information, you'll get a free guide. And it's a great way to stay in touch and get some weekly wellness nuggets of wisdom.
Amazing, man. I really appreciate you coming here. I love your energy, love your mindset. As I said, I've been following you for a while, and I'm really happy we made this happen. I really appreciate you accepting this, man.
Heck
it
yeah,
means a lot to me. And yeah, man, just take care. And hopefully we'll do this again sometime.
We'll make it happen. Lots of love, brother.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. As promised, here's the document for free with all the advice, tips and insights of this episode. You can find it in the description below. You're welcome, man. Stay strong.